Good evening, everyone. This is Rupa, and today we are back with our live interview with experts. So, today we have an amazing gentleman and the master of compliance, Mr. Sachin Rao from ComplyFin. And today he is here to tell us, especially to the new businesses and established businesses who are still struggling with compliance or still confused about it, or maybe you don't even know about it. So at the moment, any business who's footstepping in the UAE market, they must be aware of the compliance and regulations for these businesses, whether your activity fall under regulated activities or if not. What are the compliance? What are the paperwork that you need to maintain? Which are the government authorities you need to report? And there are many questions which must be, making you crazy about. But when you go to an expert, their work is to make our lives easy. So for us entrepreneurs, it is always important to surround ourselves with experts, and that is the reason why we do these live sessions with these experts. So let's start today without wasting time, and let's dive in today in the ocean of compliance. So hello, Mr. Sachin. Welcome to our show. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rupa. Uh, Thank you for having me
Superb.
on this show. Great.
Superb. We
Yeah,
are we are really pleased to have you here, and we are very interested and excited about the session today. And Sachin, as you know, this was a very much required session because so many clients they are messaging us, emailing us about what's happening. They're receiving different kind of emails for document requirements and regulations, and which at sometimes makes them nervous, especially when they are not aware of what it is. It might be a very simple
yes,
thing, but for an entrepreneur, especially in a foreign land, they have to be very cautious. So today I want you to clear our doubts and make
sure.
things easy for us. So I would first like to request you, please introduce your company and yourself to us and how long you're in the industry, and then we go ahead with the other questions.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I'm Sachin. I'm from ComplyFin. Basically, I've been in this industry for last more than 24 years, and we started this company almost 8 years back. So the whole idea for starting this company was to ensure that we are in the game to fight against financial crimes, basically money laundering and countering financing of terrorism in the best possible manner. By then, when we started, only banks and financial institutions were regulated, so they were under the central bank. And after 2018, the fact of evaluations happened. This Financial Action Task Force, they had a countrywide evaluation when they had done over here. After that, the UAE government also regulated certain other businesses, basically known as designated non-financial businesses and professions. So the categorization was done in a manner that wherein the real estate brokers were included under these regulations. Anybody who's dealing into dealers in precious metals and stones. So just you look around any jeweler, even he's regulated as of date in the UAE. Then we have auditors, accountants, and company service providers. So this is how the regulatory framework, has evolved and developed in the UAE. So what now happens is all these sectors, they are also equally regulated the way the banks were regulated earlier. So that means they come under the regulation wherein it is a requirement for all these kind of entities also to have a proper compliance program. They need to have a proper compliance officer. They need to have proper systems in place wherein they identify any kind of suspicious transactions or whatever is there. They need to report on the GoML portal. They have to be registered on the GoML portal. So all these things have evolved. So obviously, UAE is one of the most leading countries, when it comes to the efforts to be taken against these kind of financial crimes. Obviously, because the markets have been growing, there are several risk factors. If you look around UAE, also the the near neighbors, like you have certain countries where there are a lot of conflicts going on, where there are a lot of issues going on. But natural that as a country as UAE wants is it's a developed country, and we're moving fast as far as our economy is concerned. The commitment for the leadership, the commitment from the leadership over here is very high. They have set high standards, and they ensure that all these businesses which are operating over here, uh, they are not abused either directly or indirectly for any of these particular crimes. So that's where the importance comes in. So obviously, if you look at the landscape in UAE, you have something like mainland, you have free zones, then you have financial onshore free zones like the AFC, ADGM. So there is a lot of thing happening out here. So I can understand anybody who's going to start a business in UAE, or they are currently in any kind of a business. It comes with a lot of responsibility. So they have to ensure that they have a proper governance standard. Proper governance is established within their organization. They give due importance to the compliance. They ensure that all the regulatory reportings are done in a manner the way it has to be done. So these are the basic things, and of course, it's compulsory. It's mandatory that all these organizations they follow a proper AML CFT compliance structure. So although it is simple, it's not
So,
all that complicated.
uh,
Yeah.
right. So, if to summarize, which are the activities? Who has to be concerned about this compliance, or is it every business?
Uh, no, see, it's not every business as such which is regulated as of now, which comes under AML CFT compliance. Now, basically, you have banks and financial institutions. They are under this particular regulation, and all the DNFBs. DNFBs we mean by designated non-financial businesses and professions. So that includes real estate brokers, that includes dealers in precious metals and stones, lawyers, auditors, and company formation or company service or corporate service providers, commonly known as
Okay.
CSP. So they come under these particular regulations and they are regulated. So that means they would be going through inspections by the government related to AML CFT. So they need to maintain proper records. They need to ensure that none of the proceeds of crimes are used, or these companies are not abused by any of these uh, kind of terrorist outfits or any kind of financial crimes. These should not be basically abused for those particular things while offering their services. So these are the important sectors. And then if you look at the
Got it.
other zones, we have, I think, almost more than 57, I believe more than 63 odd free zones are there in the UAE. So when they give a license, they expect you to run your company in a manner wherein proper governance standards are applied over there. So that means they need to have proper records. They need to ensure that they've been audited on a timely basis, on a yearly basis. And also, UAE has introduced the taxation, which is already started, the corporate tax, which has also come in. So, but naturally, they are required to maintain all these records in a proper manner. So that's where all these industries are coming in. So the direct regulated entities are the
So,
banks
Mr.
and the
Sachin, if
DNF.
you see all most of
Yeah, yeah,
right. So all these activities that you said, if you will actually see, most of them are used by expats, right? Foreign investors, whether it is
correct,
real estate, whether it is banks, whether it is the CSPs. So mostly the clients of these activities are expats or people coming from outside countries. So do you think
correct,
they should be concerned about anything, or what are the precautions? Because one is compliance, which these companies need to take care of. The other part
correct.
is what their clients need to take care of. So the clients who are coming, do you think is there anything to be worried for them, or it's only the company's responsibility? Is there any? Do you have any suggestions for foreign investors who are coming to Dubai?
Uh, no, see, it's not a. I would not call it as a concern or something. It is just that the markets have matured so much now. Out here, the government is taking positive steps, and obviously they have these rules and regulations. So any company which is regulated, there are certain list of things what they need to take care of. So they need to be aware of what kind of clients they are onboarding, what kind of business and transactions they are conducting, and they have to ensure that at every step whenever
Right.
they're doing this particular activity or these particular transactions or while offering their products or services, uh, they're not being abused, basically. So even the customers who are
Okay.
there now, if you look at UAE alone,
Noted.
there are more than 180 nationalities out here. So obviously, they are using these particular services by the regulated entities, and of course, they would be required to give certain identification related to where they are from. They need to have the identification. They need to go through the KYC process because that is again a mandatory requirement by these regulated entities. So, but natural, that's how the markets have matured out here, and that's how the
Yeah.
government expects to have all these things, properly recorded. So,
Got
so I
it.
don't think
Got it.
that's
That's
a concern.
wonderful.
It's
So, Mr.
process.
Sachin, how did you? I have a very question for you. How did you decide to get into this industry, and what makes you so passionate about this industry?
No, basically, I was into financial industry right from beginning. Meaning I've been into this industry for quite some time, and one of my part of my job when I initially started was getting into every country to get the licenses over there for my country to for my company to get started over there. So typically, it would be that I would be meeting the regulators in
Okay.
various countries, and that's how it started off. And I just started liking this particular part, and then I qualified myself on all these things related to financial crimes, related to certification on anti-money laundering, and so many other things. And that's how I got into this. And then, of course, we had the services already placed into it because we knew that what kind of services would be required, and that's how I got started. And while doing this, I also realized that there's
Oh,
also a proper system is required. So we also have a proper software, AML CFT software, which is now used by many DNFBs in the UAE. Probably more than I think it's more than 1,000 customers who are using it now, and they've been successfully
oh,
implemented.
wow. That's
So,
great.
so that's how it all started off in that manner. So that's where it took us.
So, as per your experience, you started enjoying it. So, as per your experience, since you were in the, you have that global experience, so you feel that this, making sure that these kind of companies are compliant. Do you think we are also preparing or the SMEs in UAE for global audience? Do you think that this will give more recognition to the country across the globe for financial investments?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because the regulations are designed in such a way out here, so they look at the safety of the investors, and it's not only like all stakeholders have to be taken care of, and the regulations typically out here give you those particular comfort. So anybody who's investing here on a property or he's buying any kind of asset or maybe any precious metals or other things, they ensure that the investment what they've made is correct, it is sustainable, and all the due procedures are being followed over there. And that's where the regulations have been going on. And of course it is a safe part, because they have to give that particular environment that somebody, because it's a long term investment what people are looking at. And obviously they have to ensure that the regulations are there to protect them, and in case something is identified which is not in the right manner, then there has to be a proper enforcement. And I'm sure that UE is doing a lot of
Right.
good things when it comes to enforcement. They've been enforcing, they've been inspecting these organizations on a regular basis, and of course guiding them that how they can be
Okay.
they need to implement these things in a proper manner. So that has been happening, and quite effective.
Okay. That's so. For a company to maintain its compliance and maintain all KYC of their clients and everything, whatever is required to be compliant, is it possible for them to do it by themselves? Do they need any kind of training or degree, or do they need to hire, I think you call it MLROs from outside? And how expensive it is to maintain MLROs, whether you hire or yourself or you outsource it? Can you just give a little light on that? That for corporates to be compliant, what is the monthly expense we are looking after?
See, it's not that expensive these days. Probably earlier it was more expensive because there was a little limitation on the resources. But I would not agree with that today. It's not that expensive. At the same time, what you need to do is that you need to be focusing on your business in the right way and ensuring it that you're aligning your business with the regulatory expectations and obligations. So these are not very high expectations. Basically, you need to have one individual compliance officer. Probably, it could cost anywhere between few thousand dirhams to hire hire a proper compliance officer who's qualified also. Again, it will all depend on the scale of the business. Like if it is a small SME, obviously,
Right.
we can always outsource it. If it is a larger activities with a larger customer base, then obviously you need to have a proper team structure. We need to identify an independent compliance officer within the team who can just look into the compliance part of it and ensure that the regulatory requirements are being properly followed. So that's what is required because all this starts. It's all a part of right governance within the organization. So you need to have that particular governance wherein you have a proper
Right.
proper
So as we
secretary,
know that it's,
all these things.
yeah. So what we are getting to know over here that the maintenance cost is not that high. Like it's quite affordable for SOBs. But
So
now, what about the penalties? Because what we hear, okay, maintaining is not that difficult. But what if
correct.
somebody is not maintaining? Then what about the
See,
what is
basically, if you look
there to lose?
Yeah, because if you ask me frankly, the cost of compliance will always be less or lower than the cost of non-compliance.
Yeah,
So obviously the penalties are
yeah,
high because they are subject to inspections, and we've seen penalties coming in the range of right from 50,000 upwards, which goes up to 5 million. So 5 million, and at times it is only per instance. And of course, so the cost of non-compliance is always going to be higher than the cost of compliance is going to be lesser than the cost of non-compliance. So that's where it stands. Since they are regulated,
yeah.
obviously,
So precaution is
yeah,
better than cure.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Precaution is always better than cure,
Yes,
and it's pretty simple. So, and the regulators have been giving a lot of training on this. The outreach has been pretty good. So they've been conducting a lot of trainings on a regular basis. They are expecting these business owners to join these particular trainings which have been given, and they've been giving a perfect guideline what needs to be followed, what needs to be reported, how it needs to be done. So you need to check on to the source of income, you need to have a proper KYC form, so how it has to be there, what you need to check. So everything has been properly defined. So it's a matter of time that somebody has to just look into these things. And in case you are too busy, there are you can always go to any compliance expert in the industry, and you can always take their help. And of course, we are one of them to help all the SMEs to comply with the regulations, and that's what is our
right.
focus.
Correct. Correct. So when we talk about compliance and when we talk about, let's say, not a very big company, not a very small company, let's say a small to medium scale business. Now, who is
Hmm.
the person responsible to take care of it? The person who is, you can say, responsible for it, whose duty it is going to be,
Okay.
who has to be trained for it,
Okay. So just to give
or is it
you
everybody?
Okay, I'll tell you how. It's basically the approach. If you look at compliance and AML compliance and all these regulations, of course, the FATF has got its recommendations. It has given
Yes.
40 recommendations and those particular standards. What they've said. If you look at it, compliance is always a top-down approach. That means like it has to come from the owners, and which has to go till the last employee what you have at the lowest cadre in your organization. And as far as the training is concerned, of course, all staff have to be trained because it is about acquainting yourself that while you're doing your business, while you're doing your transactions, whatever products or services you're offering, these products and services should not be a tool, or it should not get abused either directly or indirectly for any of these kind of financial crimes. So if you have to make this aware, of course, you have to train all your staff. You have to ensure that you have a proper, independence given to the compliance team. If you are a mid-size to a larger size organization, you will always see that you will have an independent compliance department. And again, the compliance officer should be independent. That means, he should be directly reporting to the board of directors or to the
Yes.
owners directly. So he should not be wearing two, three hats, basically a hat just onto the compliance, so that he's aware of the kind of risk what is there in onboarding these kind of customers or transactions, and ensure the board of directors or the owners of the company are made aware of these kind of risk. And then based on this particular risk identification, they can actually look at those particular customers which are to be serviced or which are to be onboarded, and then continue the. So this is a very well independent function. Again, it's a requirement from a governance standards also. So that's how it is to be implemented. So first and foremost, whenever you're going to get inspected, first the inspection team is going to look into what kind of policies and procedures you have, and whether they are implemented in the right way. So that is where you need to
Right.
have the proper policies, proper training done to your
Right.
staff, and also you need to have a proper system which can be implemented. So that could be your AML software, or you could the list what the government expects you to check these particular transactions against those names, where you should not be conducting business, and certain steps to be taken by raising certain STRs, or some fund freeze reports what you need to upload it on the GoML system. So that is where your entire inspection or audit completes. So identifying the gaps in these procedures and ensuring that these are remediated on a timely basis. You need to mitigate these particular risks and ensure that your operations are smooth enough, wherein there's no doubt, or there's nothing to do with anything which is related to money laundering kind of crimes, or any kind of financial crimes are involved in this. It's basically having a clean environment, a clean business to be done in a holistic manner. So that is the approach what you need to have. So, so come may your staff, your operation staff, your front
Right. So that
line
means
front.
from it will go from the owner to the every staff. Training has to go to everybody, but there has to be one person who's dedicated for it, so that there
Correct.
are no loose ends.
The responsibility. So that is the
Everyone has to
compliance
be
officer.
trained and regularly updated, and that person might be
Absolutely
the compliance officer, yeah, and that person
true.
will keep the team updated about what are the regulations, what are the transactions,
So in fact,
high risk
the
nationalities, or
regulation
whatever is
also.
coming up, whatever updates are coming, being updated.
Correct. True. So whatever updates are there, and then there are certain trainings that when somebody is working in a regulated entity, like any of these banks or any of these DNFTs, it's a precondition that you should be aligned with the AML CFT regulations of the country. So that is a precondition. So as soon as you hire a staff, there has to be a refresher training to be done for all these particular new recruits, wherein you need to give them what are the obligations, what are the legal
Okay.
obligations, for these employees who are working in this industry. At the same time, of course, that training has to be done, the first training. And there's also something called as a KYE, that is know your employee, right? So he has to pass that particular test. So you need to be getting all the details. There's a police clearance certificate. All these things are required to be done. So once you have onboarded these right employees, then they
Right.
have to get regular trainings at regular intervals. So generally, these are annual or biannual kind of trainings, and of course, they need to understand the regulations, completely. So that's the most important thing. And then, of course, conduct your business and activities, which will be
Okay.
good enough. And in case you have any suspicion while doing these transactions, then you are supposed to be raising the suspicious transaction report or suspicious activity report on the government system. So of course, you will have to dedicate a certain
Okay.
of your budget and have these things put into place. So you need to have a separate team to look into this. Is it
So
complicated?
I also want you to give a suggestion. Yeah, no, it is at least we are understanding it and it's getting clear. So also for companies, once they implement this, obviously it will become very clear with whom you can go ahead with the transactions and with whom you cannot. So do you have any suggestions suggestion for the corporates when you have to say no to a client. Maybe they are not under anything, but maybe they're not ready to give you proper KYC details. So in such cases, what do you suggest the companies? Do they consider it and go ahead with the business with them, or do they say that no to the customers, that if we don't get enough documents or information that is required, we cannot go ahead with the business? What do you suggest the SMEs? What is the best thing to do for them?
See, the international best practices and the regulations also, what they state is that you need to do a risk assessment. So whenever you are starting a company, or whenever, or during your process of your business on a yearly basis, at least you need to, first is that conduct a risk assessment, identify all your customers, risk rate them on basis of high risk, medium risk, or low risk, and ensure that you are dealing with all these customers, but your controls should be in place. Like, what are the kind of controls? So if it is a high risk customer wherein you think he's coming from a high risk country, or the background is of a high risk manner, and stuff like that, so then you need to ensure that you conduct a proper enhanced due diligence, put in the proper controls in place, and then the management decides that whether we to onboard this customer or not. So those are the kind of things which are required to be done. And once you have onboarded the customer, then of course they have to be
Okay.
monitored on a regular basis. So that relationship has to be monitored on a regular basis, and that is again a requirement. And then the reporting requirements come in. Now, genuinely, if somebody is not having an identification, I do not think it's possible like that. Every customer which comes to you would be having his identification document. So you need to check those particular identification
Right.
documents, and there has to be a threshold that up to what limit of transaction you want to place this kind of a requirement. If you think it is a low risk customer, and
Right.
things, but identification requirement remains as a mandatory part of it, so you will have to take those particular identification, and because you need to check it, because you will not be able to check a customer without having his identification or the basic KYC. So there are certain mandatory things what are to be followed, and then as you mature into this particular relationship with the customer, that how the business is going on, there has to be a evaluation done in between. You need to check onto those particular transactions, how are they going in, and whatever the reporting requirements are there, you need to be doing it. So these are the certain mandatory things. So if you do not want to onboard a customer, you need to have a reasoning as to
So
why
now,
you're not on, and that has to be recorded somewhere. Yeah.
okay. So now I have a question. For example, you have done a due diligence of a customer, and you
Mm.
have onboarded. Everything is great. Now, is this due diligence need to be done only once, or it should be done regularly every year or so? Is there any particular duration?
Yeah.
What is generally, what do you suggest?
Correct. See, as per the regulation over here, this has to be an ongoing. It has to be done on an ongoing basis. That means on a regular basis, you need to be checking it. So when it comes to the targeted financial sanctions over here, there's a complete clear guidance which says that you need to screen the customer during pre-onboarding stage, during onboarding, every time you do a transaction with the customer, every time there's a change in the customer's profile, and every time there's a change in the sanctions list itself. So this is the particular regulation. So irrespective of the value of the transaction, even if it is a small transaction, so as far as the targeted financial sanctions are concerned, you need to be doing it. So as a country, UAE has implemented TFS over here, wherein they expect all these regulated entities to check these customers on basically primarily the two lists, that is the UNSCR list and the UAE terrorist list, the local UAE terrorist list. And these entities have to subscribe on the UCN website. And once they've subscribed it over there, they would be getting that list. So these are the names which would be, are getting updated on a regular basis. So every time you do a transaction or every time you onboard a customer, your primary requirement is to check these customers against this list. And this is how it is to be done. So during pre-onboarding stage, when you're just going to collect his documents, you need to run a screen check while doing the transaction. Whenever there is a change in the customer
Okay.
profile, you need to again. So this is basically on an ongoing basis. It's required to be done. So either you do it manually or you do it through a system. That's the second part. It will all depend on the kind of volume of your activity and volume of your business. But yes, I would always suggest it's better to have a right system in place so that you record all these things and you have proper logs during the inspection.
Okay. So, as per our, if I little bit summarize our conversation, what we are seeing is, so people can take your help in making their, initial policies, or you can say policy handbook for the entire company, a rule
Sure.
book.
Yes.
They can help
Yes.
you, take your help for training their key persons about the
About the
compliance
policy
and
and the
whatever
procedures
procedures
to
that
be
have
done.
to be taken. Yeah, on onboarding procedures or paperwork that they need to,
Yeah.
regularly keep in the company. Number three, they can help take your help in creating the risk rating parameter for their
Yeah.
customers, depending on the
Can be
businesses.
done. Yes, we can do that. Of course, we do that.
Number three, they
On
can
the
also
services
use your
part,
software.
absolutely.
Yeah, and then they can use your software that you are providing them to do their risk
Sure.
assessments.
Yes.
And then you're saying that you can also help them in doing the enhanced due diligence or training them on that what has to be done,
Correct.
and then obviously filing the filing the STRs or the whatever filing procedures that they have to do. And apart from all this, you can give them a time to time consultation also, or an audit,
True. Yes.
to make sure
So
that if whatever they're doing are in place and is
yes,
updated with all the uh, updates.
absolutely, absolutely. So so the basic thing what we always like to do is that, of course, on the services side is all these things as you rightly pointed out, right from policy to the risk assessment and conducting the AML CFT audit. We can do that particular part. And on the solutions part is the AML software, what they can use it. So the whole idea out here is to ensure that these companies are adhering to the regulatory requirements over here, and
Okay.
that is what the best we are into that particular space. So we want to help them, we want to guide them, give them the consulting required as to how they need to have a proper governance structure, how it is to be implemented, what kind of procedures, what kind of policies they need to have, uh, what kind of reportings are required. So there are a number of reportings what they need to do. So we help them doing all these things. And of course, on the solutions part of it also, we are tied up and we have partners with like Dow Jones and World Check. So we integrate our systems with them. It gives them a complete scale of conducting a PEP check, that is a politically exposed persons. They can check all those details as a requirement of the they can in fact conduct an entire risk assessment within the system itself. So the system will identify which of your customers are falling into high risk, which of them are low risk, medium risk, and then accordingly those controls are there in place. So they can monitor their transactions, they can screen their transactions. So there are multiple things what can be done onto the system. So that would give a good confidence to the not only to the organization as such who's using this, but also when they have to face the regulator and when they need to do the inspection or audit from the regulatory side, it will also give them good amount of confidence to to explain what kind of activities they are doing, and if in fact meaning it serves the purpose for all the stakeholders. And when once you do all these things, then obviously the even the customer also, the end customer, the good customers, whatever you're getting in, they are also benefited because of it, because they know that these are the procedures to be followed, what needs to be done, and they are able to adhere to the regulatory requirements. So that is what is the whole idea of having these kind of things.
Okay, that's great. So Mr. Sachin, now if anybody has to get in touch with you, what are the best modes that they can get in touch with you? Is it through your website, WhatsApp, phone? What do you entertain more?
Uh, of course, they can visit our website, that is www.complyfin.com. So on the website, they can connect with us. They can always call
Okay,
us. They can always write on
I'll
info.
just leave it in the. It's www.complyfin.com.
Yeah, that is the
I think we
website,
can get your
and
details
then
also from there.
you can write to us on
We have
info at
posted in the.
consulting.com.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Sachin, it was really great discussing with you about compliance and how businesses can comply to compliance through experts. So, through my understanding, what I feel is uh, I think it's great for new business users that whenever you're forming a company, I think everybody should at least once take a consultation from a compliance officer to understand whether they're, because I think whether their activity is falling in the category or not, it is good to understand what are the do's and don'ts or the right and
Sure.
wrong uh,
Correct.
in initiating with the transactions with your customers. Because if they are
Absolutely.
aware, I think it is good for every business to maintain good paperwork for for their clients with whom they are dealing. Because when the whole country together is taking such a great initiative to make the businesses compliant and be global ready for global opportunities and create a safe economy or sustainable economy, I think it's a responsibility of every corporate, no matter what
True.
activity you are into. I think that's the first thing, first message to the corporates and businesses. And the second thing will
Sure.
be people who are coming to UAE to invest. I think everybody should be happy about the country being so serious about the quality of investors who are coming to this country. And I think they should also be very cooperative in complying to the regulations, whether it's a bank, whether it's a real estate company, or you're dealing with whoever. I think they should come with a very open mind in sharing the right information or their identity information or whatever is required to maintain their KYC. That creates a great credibility for them also in the financial market or in the corporate world. So I think that's the message to the investors and entrepreneurs who are aspiring for the UAE market. And the third suggestion, which I feel I would like to give to everybody, it is good to go to the doctor instead of trying home remedies. I'm really suffering with, this cold and cough. And for a very long time, I tried to just use home remedies till the time I made it more worse. And finally, I realized I should have gone to the doctor before. So I think
True.
for everybody to, if you receive an email, if you get an information or anything, rather than trying to burn your fingers, it's always good
Absolutely.
to go to
Absolutely.
experts and clear your doubts and be more
True.
informed, or be informed the
Absolutely.
right way instead of just doing Google searches. Because I am sure
Correct.
Google searches, definitely they will give you a lot of information which might confuse you. So it's better to
Absolutely.
go to a trained person who will give you information customized for your business. So
And
that's
as I
my
said,
suggestion, that please.
and as I also mentioned earlier, no, the cost of compliance will always be lesser or lower than the cost of
Yes.
non-compliance. Yeah. So rather than
Lesser than
just
the
your cough and
penalties.
cold, yeah. So your cough and cold gets treated at the right time with the right medicine. Then obviously, you are avoiding so many other uh, unrequired expenses and trouble.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
how it is.
From
So really
ComplyFin.
great.
And Mrs.
Yeah.
Sachin, can you also, can you, I think your contact number, email ID is available in your website.
Yeah,
Still,
yeah, it is
if you can
available.
just
Yeah,
tell,
still I can.
so we can put
Yeah,
in the
you
comment box
can.
also.
Sure, sure. Meaning, you can always contact us and directly on our numbers, that is 05090357777. And you can also take my direct email ID, that is sachin@complyfin.com. And we are reachable. We have good team of experts working with us, and I'm sure we'll ensure that life is easy and good and compliant with the regulatory requirements. So that's that's the message what I would like to pass on to all your audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sachin. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us. We will come next time with more topics. Do feel free to suggest us what you would like to hear more about. Thank you, Mr. Sachin, for coming in Black Swan. And we are looking forward, whatever questions our audience will give, we will also keep telling you. And I'm sure they would love to get in touch with you to clear their doubts. So we end our session today over here, and we will come again with another topic to make your life easy. In your business. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Have a nice week. Bye.